Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the predictions. And it's a special one this week. You enjoyed the FA Cup last time we did. At least you told us you did anyway. So we're going to major on the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. So, Mikey, 4 FA Cup games and 4 Premier League games. And essentially, we're going to try and tell you who the FA Cup semi-finalists are going to be. And let's kick you off, Mikey. Welcome, by the way, with Wolves versus Coventry City.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, really interesting FA Cup tie, this one, to kick it all off, isn't it? Wolves against Coventry, two Midlands clubs who are having decent seasons, it's got to be said. Wolves have had 4 wins in their last 5, all of those by 1 goal. They've got a lot of injuries at the attacking end now, though. They're missing Cunha, he's been out for a little while. They're missing Hwang, and now they're also missing Pedro Neto. He did his hamstring against Fulham. But weirdly, against Fulham, Wolves actually looked better after he got injured. 8 Nuri started playing in a wide attacking role and was just absolutely all over Fulham. And they created quite a few chances and won the game. So cause for optimism there for Wolves, but yeah, not ideal going into this big quarter final. They're safe, of course, in the Premier League. They're going to be mid-table. So this is their season now. I'm going to say this a few times in this video. But yeah, not an ideal scenario for them. Coventry, last time I looked, they were 8th in the Championship, but they've won their last 2. Ellis Sims is in good form, and they last met Wolves in League One, Ben, 10 years ago. I had a little look
No
at the
way.
teams, and David Prusson was playing. This was at Sixfield Stadium as well. These were pretty dark
So
times for
Wolves would have
Coventry.
scored 100 points that season with Kenny Jackett, if I've got the right year, yeah?
Yeah, but they failed to win at Coventry or Northampton, as it actually was. David Prutton and Callum Wilson were in the Coventry team. Matt Doherty was in the Wolves team, and he's back at Wolves now. He's probably going to play this weekend. I thought that was quite interesting. Both of those games, that season ended 1-1, and I'm going to go for that here. But obviously, there's no replay, as I realised halfway into doing these predictions notes. So I'm going to go for Wolves to win in extra time.
I'm going to need a full scoreline for that, Mikey.
2-1 to Wolves.
So 2-1 in extra time. Do you want to play a bonus point on that, being you've thrown the extra time in?
No.
We're going to save it for later.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I might be doing it again.
He's got something up his sleeve. So let me write AET there. You're going down a similar road to me with this one, and I always feel a big loyalty for my championship teams. Coventry lost an extremely high-profile penalty shootout back in May in the, I don't know, add 40 million on every year, the £7 billion game. So let's go for Coventry to win a penalty shootout here. I'm going to match you with the 1-1 at full time. That doesn't count as a double, everybody. I'm not having that. And I'm going to go Coventry to win on penalties. And that is also, Mikey, straight out of the gate for a bit of fun. That is going to be my bonus point. Okay. Which takes us to hopefully something a bit more straightforward called Manchester City versus Newcastle United.
Yeah, you could say it's more straightforward, but Manchester City, let's face it, they've got bigger fish to fry than the FA Cup, haven't they? Whereas Newcastle, this looks like it's pretty much it for them after their defeat at Chelsea on Monday night. And Manchester City, they will rotate in this game, which should make things slightly easier for Newcastle. Although I look back at their FA Cup run last season, and they played Burnley in the quarterfinals, and Erling Haaland scored a hat-trick, so they obviously didn't go too light in that game. Ortega was in goal, and I mean, it's the injury to Edison has forced Pep Guardiola's hand there. I'm not really sure about Ortega. He's not on the same level as Edison, but he played well when he came on at Liverpool the other day. But that does weaken them. We'll probably see the likes of Rico Lewis, Guardiola, and Diaz, but that's still an incredibly strong Manchester City team, isn't it? Newcastle, as I mentioned, they lost at Chelsea, and there was a knee injury to Anthony Gordon. Such a shame. He's been so good for them in the sort of fluid front three roles. The Newcastle last won the FA Cup in 1955. They last reached the final in 1999. They're desperate to get to Wembley. They've had 11 meetings in the FA Cup, and Newcastle have only lost 3 of them, Ben, historically. So if anyone wants to take a look at the history of this fixture in the FA Cup, maybe you'll go against the grain, but I'm just going to go with it, and I'm going to say Manchester City are going to win this one 3-1.
Well, you know me and Man City, Mikey, so I'll be totally going with the grain on this one, and also back in Manchester City. I appreciate what you say about Haaland playing at this point last year, and De Bruyne got pulled out of the big game against Liverpool early. Well, say early on, but maybe he's ready to go and raring to go to at least play an hour in the FA Cup. We'll find out, but. Regardless of whoever starts, Manchester City to have too much. I was thinking 3-1-ish. So I'll take a goal off City and I will go 2-1. Man City 2, Newcastle 1. Another championship team that with our Ipswich Town hats on, we could do with winning all the FA Cup games that they play in this season. But Chelsea versus Leicester City, Mikey.
Yeah, well, the FA Cup looked like a really fun distraction for Leicester. Even in the last round, didn't it? They went to Bournemouth and they rotated and they got through impressively against Premier League opposition. But now they're probably thinking, we could have done without doing that, because now, while they're playing in the FA Cup, Leeds have the opportunity to beat Millwall and move into top spot. And once you lose top spot, it might be difficult to get it back. Chelsea, like a lot of the teams, I'm going to say this is their last chance at silverware. They had a decent win against Newcastle on Monday night. That was probably one of the highlights of their season. They just played much savvier. The amount of times, Ben, I watched this game, I think I saw Livramento get hacked down about 6 times by Chelsea. They're obviously just trying to stop teams counter-attacking against them. And they're a very inexperienced team, but they're maybe trying to learn a few street smarts there. But someone that has been really good for them is Cole Palmer, and he's absolutely flying. And Mudryk scored a really nice goal as well. It'll be interesting to see if he's finally found his feet, because he's a player that looks like he could have a really high ceiling, especially with all the pace that he has. Leicester will definitely rotate for this game. Maybe Jamie Vardy will play. This is the team that Jamie Vardy's played against the most in his career, Ben. Despite starting in the lower leagues, we kind of forget about the fact that he was in the Premier League for over a decade. And yeah, he's played Chelsea 21 times. He's only won 4 of them. He's only, I say only, it's still pretty impressive. He's only scored 4 against them. But yeah, he'll fancy himself for another goal at Stamford Bridge. But Chelsea, they just need this game so much more than Leicester. They really need the win, and it doesn't always work out like that with a team that needs it the most wins. But I don't think Leicester will push too hard if they find themselves behind. So I'm going to go for a narrow Chelsea 2-1 win.
Yeah. If I were Enzo Maresca... Go on, Mikey, sorry.
I was just going to say the only thing I forgot to say is this is a repeat of the 2021 FA Cup final.
Is that where 20? Oh, I was going to say, is that where Di Matteo scored right at the start? Then you were like 2021, Ben. No, who's Chelsea playing that final? Can't remember.
Was it Middlesbrough?
That's a great shout. Yeah, great shout. I was going to say, if I was Enzo Maresca, I would actually keep Jamie Vardy well away from this game. I think he might actually end up being really, really important to their promotion chances now. If you look at his sort of the limited time he's played and the amount of goals he's still scored at championship level, obviously levels above it, as you said, in that storied career. I think it might be quite loose. And yeah, you're right. Maybe Leicester just need a really sharp focus now. Oh, hang on. We've been miles clear all season, or most of the season. Let's really just get this Premier League promotion sorted. And with that being said, I'll go for Chelsea to win 2-0 then, Mikey. I'll take the Leicester goal out. Chelsea 2, Leicester City 0. And the small matter here of Manchester United versus Liverpool, the tie of the round, no doubt, with your TV hat on, Mikey.
Yeah, this is always a big game, but probably one that Manchester United fans have started to dread in recent recent years. But in the FA Cup, in a one-off game, they might just fancy it. They've had a decent start to 2024, Manchester United, but they've been a little bit hit and miss in recent weeks. They weren't particularly impressive against Everton, but they got the win, which is a good sign for them. The last meeting between these two teams was a 0-0 draw, and the last Old Trafford meeting was a 2-1 win for Manchester United. So there's cause for optimism there, and Liverpool haven't won in the FA Cup at Old Trafford in 103 years, Ben. Pretty incredible record, that one.
Do
Still
you remember
lots
when
of
they were
injuries.
leading, Mikey? Sorry to interrupt. They might have even been in the treble season, mightn't it? And didn't Solskjaer and York score like
Yeah,
2
yeah. I
goals
think
right at the end?
Michael Owen scored an early goal, and then they turned it round at the
Gary
end.
Neville's like trying to assault him as he's scoring it as well, isn't he? Brilliant. Yeah, sorry, Karen.
Yeah. So Manchester United have good history against Liverpool in this competition, and they'll fancy themselves in this game because Liverpool still have a lot of injuries. I know that the youngsters that have come in have been doing really well, but when a team is missing players, you've got to fancy yourselves. And they've what is this stat I've got? Mo Salah, he's back, Ben. He came off the bench, didn't he, against Manchester City? He scored 12 goals in 13 games against Manchester United, which is just absolutely absurd, isn't it? He's got a decent record at Old Trafford as well. But I'm going to play my bonus point here, and I'm going to go for a slightly left field prediction. You probably saw it coming with some of the comments I was making there. I'm going to go
Penalties,
for
yeah?
Manchester United 3, Liverpool 2 after extra time with the bonus point.
That's absolutely tremendous. All I've got in my head, Mikey, and I know we get in trouble for referencing everything back to Ipswich Town, but that's our team and that's kind of natural. So Ipswich had a very emotional game that they played really well in and ended up drawing, and they looked a bit spent after that earlier in the season. And I thought you can tell us at the end of the show. I thought Liverpool were absolutely brilliant, and the stadium was brilliant against Man City, and the emotions were all there, but they didn't win. So I wonder, and I'm not saying it'll last as long as Ipswich's malaise did after the particular game that I'm referencing. I wonder whether you do get the Man United win, because perhaps Klopp goes, well, okay, I'll back off a little bit. He's going to play some youngsters anyway because of the injuries. So I will also back Manchester United. Maybe Liverpool will take the lead and Manchester United will come from behind, like we mentioned with Dwight York and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Manchester United 2, Liverpool 1. Right, that is the FA Cup dealt with. So our semi-finals, Mikey, you have got Wolves. You did go Wolves. I've got your score the wrong way around there, haven't I?
Yeah.
Not that you can see my screen. You've got Wolves, Man City, Chelsea, and Manchester United. I'm exactly the same, but I've got Coventry in there representing the good old Championship.
Nice.
Even if you don't want to go full on predictions, give us your 4 for the FA Cup semi-finals there. I know we'll get a lot of 4 Premier League teams in there, but you might want to get a Championship team in there if you want. You can see above Mikey's head, we are brought to you in association with the fine people at Match Bingo. And Mikey, how about this? You'll love this. I don't need to plug Match Bingo, because take a look at this message from one of our subscribers here, Porky8719, messaged me, look, one day ago, Ipswich result hurt, but on the bright side, I won 100 quid on Saturday's Bingos card on Match Bingo, free card 2. No, I am not paying, what was his name again? Porky8719 to say that. And we've had a few winners now. Remember, we had that £1,000 winner as well. So, look, this is happening here. Head over to Match Bingo. Great fun. Not entirely sure what promotions they've got on with all the postponements this round, but that Bingos game that Mr. Porky won on will be live, and it is a free card if you want to get yourself involved. Usual deal, though. Help me out, guys. Help Mikey out as well. Help us both out. Help everyone out. Eat out to help out. That didn't work, did it? Click that QR code. I'm just padding to keep the QR code on screen for as long as possible. I did eat outside. It just seems surreal, all that COVID stuff. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
not even mention that word because YouTube tends to act very quickly on that. So match bingo we do want to mention. And yeah, maybe try the Bingals game out. And I will be playing along also on Leeds versus Millwall on Sunday. We'll be watching along with that. A game Mikey referenced, which could change the leadership in the Championship. I think it probably will. We're going to do the 4 Premier League games, Mikey. Just a bit of housekeeping. We always have to deal with the space-time continuum. This is Wednesday we're recording this. This will come out on Thursday. So we don't know what's happened in the 1 Premier League game tonight. Well, we do know that Tom Lockyer is the guest of honour, which is rather lovely, in Bournemouth versus Luton. Okay, so we tick that one off. We've got 4 Premier League games, Mikey, and we're going to start you off with Burnley versus Brentford.
Excellent. Yeah, these are the 2 teams who have surrendered the most points from winning positions this season. Burnley have surrendered 20 points, Brentford 28, and that's been the difference for them this season. They just haven't been able to hold on to leads when they've got them. They both gave good accounts of themselves last weekend in the capital. Fofana scored an incredible early goal for Burnley. He looks like he could be a player. He's
He
obviously on
does,
loan
doesn't
from
he? Yeah.
Chelsea. They just couldn't sustain that first half, though, in the second. Perhaps unsurprisingly, West Ham really came out strong in the second half, and by the end, Burnley were really, really holding on there. Brentford, they had that pretty heartbreaking defeat at Arsenal, didn't they, with the Havertz situation? Should he have been sent off? He probably should have done, and then he goes and scores the winning goal. That's one that they've just got to bounce back from and bounce back from fast. This is exactly the type of fixture that they would have wanted off the back of that game. The Bees won the home fixture 3-0 between these 2 teams, but have only won 1 of their 11 visits to Turf Moor historically. This is scoring goals again for them, isn't he? Tony, though, I think that's 4 games without a goal. I'm sure he's no less confident in himself, though, Ben. A win would
Nope.
be huge for them, but I can see. Well, I'm putting 2-2 here, so one of them's going to take the lead and drop more points again, Ben.
Well, I was going to say 2 things. One of them was, I hope you're not going to say 1-1. And the other one was they both can't take the lead and drop points. And then I thought about it. Yes, they can, can't they? Especially if it's a 2-2 draw and both teams lead during it. So I think you can see where I'm going with this. I can't split them. And I think if it was at the G-Tech, I'd back Brentford. But I'm going to go very boring, very safe. Burnley 1, Brentford 1. We call that an unhelpful draw for both sides. But we'll find out how unhelpful Mikey thinks that's going to be, because 2 of their rivals who would quite like that to end a draw are Luton versus Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we don't know what's happened in the Luton game at Bournemouth. They may well have leapfrogged Forest out of the relegation places going into this game. But either way, this is a massive 6-pointer, isn't it? Luton unbeaten in their last 5 against Forest, but they've lost 6 of their last 8 home games, whereas the Kenilworth Road fortress gone, Ben. They just can't seem to buy a win there at the moment. I think a lot of us were expecting, after they pushed all of the top sides so hard, didn't they? They got that draw against Liverpool, and then they were so unlucky against Arsenal and a bit unlucky against Manchester City. We were thinking they'll be fine because look at these home games they've got coming up, but it just hasn't really worked out like that, has it? And teams have kind of cottoned on to how they want to play at home, and they want to get crosses into the box, and they're just working hard to stop that. This is obviously a must-win for Luton, and Forest fans are going to be saying much the same. They were narrowly beaten again last week, a really poor goal to concede at Brighton for them. Chris Wood is back, and he had a good little run initially after Nuno took over. But it's not really a game that's going to suit their counter-attacking style. So I could see Forest kind of doing the same as what Luton do, just trying to get the ball out wide and get crosses into the box for Wood and Awoniyi. But yeah, this one might not be pretty. I think it's going to be really tight, quite a nervy affair. But I'm going to go for Luton to break that stinking home run with a victory here, a narrow 2-1 win against Forest, which is going to put them into some serious trouble.
This is really boring because I've just done a draw. I just can't separate it. I really, really
Yeah.
can't.
Well, neither side, both sides will be so desperate not to lose, won't they?
Yeah, but the victory would just be absolutely massive. And then there's that whole thing of what's coming down the road for Forest. Is there going to be a minus going on? They really need to keep Luton at arm's length. So, even though it could feel massively decisive, there might be something more decisive happening later on. I'm going to go the draw then, Mikey. And to try and be a bit less boring, instead of going for a 1-all, I'll Desmond it up, which is probably unlikely knowing Nuno and Forest. But hey, it's the predictions, isn't it? Luton 2, Forest 2. What a win for Tottenham at the weekend. Fulham versus Spurs, Mikey.
Yeah, fantastic win for Tottenham going into the Clint Dempsey derby. And Fulham have been, Spurs have been a real bogey team of Fulham's over the last few years. They've lost 14 of their 16 games against them. March 2013 was their last win for the Cottagers against Tottenham. Fulham generally are good at home, though. They've won their last two London derbies there against Arsenal and West Ham. Muniz has 6 in his last 6. 6 goal involvements in his last 6. That's 5 goals and an assist. But Son, on the other end of the pitch, has been involved in 22 in his last 21. He's in great form. James Maddison scored last weekend as well, and Timo Werner scored 2 in 2. Maybe Ange Postecoglou is going to start getting a tune out of him, and he's fantastic substitute to be able to bring off the bench if he can find the back of the net like he did at Villa. They were decent in that game, but they're generally not as good without Mickey van der Ven, and he's going to be out injured now for a little while. Their record has been poor without him, but I think that might also be because when he got injured against, I think it was Chelsea a few months ago, it was the same night that Maddison and a couple of other important Spurs players got injured. So hopefully it won't make as much of a difference to Tottenham. Spurs are averaging 2.2 goals per game. They're just a free-flowing, high-scoring team at the moment. They scored 3 against Palace, and they went and scored 4 against Villa. So they're almost like Arsenal, aren't they, Ben, at the moment? So I'm going to go for a Tottenham win at Craven Cottage with a scoreline of 3-1.
I'm just surprised you missed a chance to mention Berbatov then, but I think we mentioned him the other week, didn't we? Or Danny Murphy, or one
Yeah,
of the many
Berbatov's
players
the
called,
one, isn't he?
I know, one of the many players called Dembele who played for both as well. That must be a very popular
Yeah.
name in that particular part of the world. Yeah, I've got to back Tottenham after they're going to be so confident. And like you say, with those, all the attacking kind of players available to them. Are they going to keep a clean sheet? Go on, let's go for it. Fulham 0, Spurs 2. And finally, West Ham versus Aston Villa.
Yeah, West Ham against Villa. West Ham are on a great run against Villa, at least. They're unbeaten in their last 8. And that's included, obviously, earlier this season and the end of last season when Villa were doing really well. But West Ham just seem to be able to school them at the moment with David Moyes. Bad results for both at the weekend, it's got to be said, on Sunday. Neither of them started particularly well, and it was Villa kind of ran out of steam, but West Ham came back stronger in the second half of the game. But they both had difficult Thursday night games, didn't they? So perhaps understandable. There's going to be no John McGinn for Villa after that booming tackle, if you could call it that, he made early in the second half. But Villa have been brilliant away from home, it's got to be said. They've won their last 3. They've got confidence still, I think, despite that 4-0 result against Spurs. I think getting away from home again, I think they'll fancy their chances at the big pitch at West Ham. But they are both in Europa League action on Thursday night, and they've both got it all to do. Villa are playing Ajax, and so you'd think historically Villa are going to be chasing the ball, but I don't know that much about modern day Ajax with Jordan Henderson in midfield. West Ham have got to overturn that 1-0 lead against I think it's Freiburg, isn't it? Which won't be easy either. Both of those could go the distance as well. So I'm expecting quite a low quality game here, maybe quite a slow start. I don't think it's going to be particularly high scoring, but I'm going to go for West Ham to win this one. going for 2-1, 2-1 to the Hammers. But
You let me right up.
partly because they've got Paquetá, Bowen, and Kudus, and when they've got those three, they seem to win games. Even Danny Ings scored last week.
You led me right up the garden path there, because I've got written down here West Ham 0, Aston Villa 1. And you're telling me how it's going to be low margin and Villa are good away from home. And my brain's like creating, right, okay, I'm not going to be able to do 0-1. Mikey's about to do that. But he's not. He's gone for the West Ham win, which is great, which means I can flip you the other way. So we can either equally make happy or equally upset. Let's be honest, they're football fans. So we'll equally upset each set's fans here, because we're both going to back against one of them. I will go West Ham 0, Aston Villa 1. That is the FA Cup games and the Premier League games. Get your predictions in via the comments. Last round, I got a bit closer, didn't I? But 6-5 to Mikey. It was Manchester United, Everton. I got bang on the nose. Mikey got Wolves, Fulham bang on the nose. And Mikey, you were admonishing me for my foolhardy 4-2 Fulham bonus point shout, costing me in the end.
Yeah, you're turning into Brentford, aren't you, Ben?
I'm turning
you
into
start
Garth
well.
Crooks.
Yeah, and I think it can't be can't be a coincidence that you make good sound predictions at the start of the show, and then the further we go in, the more excited you get, and you start making daft predictions. And I just try and keep my head and slowly chip away at you and come back, which is what I did last week. But yeah, not particularly impressive scoring from either of us last week, it's got to be said.
So after my pathetic levels of emotional intelligence have just been buried by Mikey, and let's be honest, he's probably right. I'm going to go into the other room and work on myself. But in the meantime, get your predictions in via the comments. Let us know how you scored as well. Only 8 games this week, so you might catch Mikey. I'm going to do it this week, I feel. I think the presence of 2 championship teams in here is going to help me out a little bit. But yeah, we want to hear from you. So score yourself up as well. 1 for the right outcome. 3 if you get the right scoreline. Give yourself a 1 bonus point for your most outlandish prediction as well. We're going to be back, or are we? We're not. International break coming up. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the other Premier League stuff. So from me, it's a lovely big goodbye. And also from Mikey, get involved over on Match Bingo. And we'll see you very soon. Now, you might see a YouTuber with millions of subscribers and views a week driving a Bentley. It's a bit more modest, I have to say, when you're covering the Championship. So if you can find a few quid each month to support over on Patreon or by hitting the join button here, you are making the world of difference for myself, Shaylee, and Enid.